Thanks so much. Sorry, I had to bring notes. I'm brand new to Toronto, that's why, and I didn't have jokes about Toronto till a couple of weeks ago, so you look like a great crowd, a nice crowd too. You're a good-looking crowd. I feel like I'm talking to a dog I don't trust. All of easy. Nice crowd. Okay. You like jokes? I got jokes.
Hello, I'm Ali Hassan, and this is Laugh Out Loud on CBC Radio in Canada and CBC.ca worldwide. Today I'm very pleased to pay tribute to one of Canada's greatest comedians on this, the 5th anniversary of his untimely passing. I'm speaking, of course, about the Professor Irwin Barker. And in addition to the comedy-packed show that we have, I'm also very happy to have with me in our Toronto studio two of Irwin's closest friends, Tim Steeves and Sam Easton. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome.
Hey, man. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, man. My producer, Tracy Rideout, who is also a longtime friend of Irwin's, put out a call to fans and friends, offering up a chance to have some personal reflection or an anecdote recalled, and the two of you were among the first to respond. Now, Tim Steeves, you've not only performed with Irwin, but you were also writing together on the Rick Mercer Report.
Yeah, he wrote with us on Mercer for, I guess, 3 seasons. Yeah. Yeah, the whole time just cheating death. They gave him a year and he lived 3.5 more or something like that. And just, his work ethic was ridiculous, just such a tough guy through the whole thing. He never, he faced his mortality and he never blinked, It was remarkable to have a ringside seat for it. You learn a lot.
And was that sort of a reflection of his comedy as well?
The way he approached his comedy was sort of the same, similar, very similar. Like there's a simplicity to his brilliance.
Sure.
He could take the simplest turns of phrase and turn it into something so magical. And he was the only comic I've ever known that could do math in a punchline and get a giant laugh with it. There's an old comedy rule, that's sort of unwritten rule that says, you can't really expect an audience to do math and get a big laugh. You can either ask them to do math or you can get a big laugh. But Irwin had a way that he could even put math in a punchline and make it funny,
I want to turn over to Sam Easton. Sam, you were a very close friend to Irwin, and you were even the best man at his wedding.
Yeah, Irwin and I were very close. He taught me so much about life and comedy, and he was so funny on stage and off stage. You couldn't compare yourself to how funny he was, or you would just quit doing comedy. He was that special. He could make an 80-year-old laugh. He could make a 5-year-old laugh. I remember one time he told a comic that he was using this comic's jokes for his 5-year-old grandchildren. And the comic was so thankful and happy. The comic didn't realize that Irwin had just completely trashed him.
Right.
Irwin was the funniest guy in the back of the room, and he was the funniest guy on stage, and his stuff still is hysterical.
Yeah. It absolutely stands the test of time.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great friend. He was always there for you, and he had a way of just making everybody comfortable, everybody relaxed. He would make my mom laugh hysterically, my sister laugh hysterically. There was nobody he couldn't reach. He had that ability just to reach everybody, all ethnicities. When I was 21 years old, we'd go to UVic. All my friends were at University of Victoria. We'd stay in this house of 6 guys. There was a grow-op in there. He'd be wearing a suit, He'd be writing jokes, and some of the guys were worried that he was taking notes about the drug lab that he was in. We would go to nightclubs till 4 a.m. He had this ability to run with 21-year-olds, or run with 60-year-olds, or run with anybody.
Yeah, it could be the Queen of England or a biker, and he'd be equally charming and comfortable.
I know so many people who don't know Irwin Barker, and when a comedian doesn't know Irwin Barker, I tell them to go study and research them. I either tell them to study and research them, or I never speak to them again.
On that note, I think we'll give people the chance to study Irwin Barker right now.
I found this a little while ago. I was watching Jeopardy. I'm a big fan of Jeopardy. Do you watch Jeopardy? Okay. You play along. You get one question right, you just feel like the next Einstein. Just strutting around the living room. Oh, I'm way smarter than that Gurn guy. They had a category was sports of the world, and the question came up, what is Canada's official national sport? And right away, hockey. I said, and I was wrong. Do you guys know what it is? So I'm the only idiot. Yeah. Lacrosse. Yeah. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I don't know anyone who wouldn't be out tonight because lacrosse happens to be on TV. Apparently the government knows better than I do what we do as Canadians. I don't see couples arguing because one of them spends all their time watching lacrosse. You love lacrosse more than me. I don't go to other countries and have people come running up to me, you're Canadian? Tell me about lacrosse. Well, that's our official sport in Canada. That's all I know about it, though. It's very secretive, actually. We don't like to talk about it too much. I'm afraid if we do, the Americans will get teams and pay people big money and we'll lose it. It's happened before, believe me. Actually, interestingly enough, lacrosse, it's our national sport because it's historically significant. You probably know that. It was played hundreds of years before there were ever any white European settlers anywhere in Canada. But the way they used to play hundreds of years ago is they get miles and miles of bush, then they'd have 50 or 60 lacrosse players on a team, and a lacrosse match could actually go on for days. That sounds interesting, I guess. I don't know. Want to televise it or not? Just some guy hiding in a hollow log for 3 days waiting for a chance to pass. I don't know. Highlights would take all day. I don't know. Goalie, that would be frustrating. Just peering into the bush for a day and a half. Just knowing that any second some leather-covered rock's going to come zinging past your head at 93 miles an hour. Bang, there goes my goals against. Frustrating. Just helplessly waiting for some devastating impact you're totally powerless to do anything about. I guess that's what makes it Canadian, though, if you think of it that way. I don't know. I love shows like Jeopardy. Anyways, I'm into the trivia. I know I could win big money if I could get on something. Even like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Have you seen? Like, why do they take so long to answer the simplest questions in the world? It's like, what is the primary ingredient in toast? Is it A, carbon, B, yeast, C, bread, or D, jam? The guy's got to think about it. He's like, well, it's not jam. I know it's not jam because you put jam on toast. But, Regis, I was thinking, when I was a kid, we used to get up in the morning and we'd pour dried cereal in a bowl and milk, and then we'd eat that with a spoon. And while we were doing that, my mother would make toast. So I like to call my mother. You guys have been a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
His efficiency of words is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like all comics, we all strive to, less syllables always better.
Yeah.
But he was a master at that.
This is it. This is the first lesson I ever got in comedy from a club owner in Montreal. Less is more, less is more. And when you're young in comedy, you don't even know what that means or how to do it. And that's what people may or may not realize listening to Irwin. It's a comedy clinic.
Irwin knew all the great unwritten rules of comedy, and one of the ones we used to like to talk about was if you can take 2 pages and make it one and not lose any of the ideas, you've made it twice as good.
Let's hear some of Irwin now. Here he is performing in his hometown of Winnipeg.
Hey! Oh man, Winnipeg, it's so good to be home. Back in friendly Manitoba. It's still friendly, right, Manitoba? Hasn't changed while I've been gone. It's still, it says friendly Manitoba right on the license plate. So, although Winnipeg is the break-in and arson capital of Canada, so I don't know, who's making these license plates? That's what I'm wondering. Oh, look, the stool. We got a stool. That's how you can tell it's a comedy show. We got comedians work for, 9 minutes a day, but they may want to take a break at any point. Yeah. That's ash, too. That's way funnier than walnut, I'll tell you that. I've been doing comedy long. My neighbor, next door neighbor, is a pathological liar, or so he claims. I myself am an optimist, but who knows how long that's going to last. You know what I'm talking about? Optimist, pessimist. The optimist says the cup's half full. Pessimist says it's half empty. Unless it's poison, obviously, then the pessimist is on about the half full. But yeah, in a perfect world, of course, the optimist would be on about the half full kind of, unless you're in a leaky rowboat, he'd be the half empty. Or maybe you got friends having a water drinking contest, then the optimist says, let's go, the cup's half empty. But yeah, normally, all things considered, the optimist would say the cup is half full, and the pessimist would say, yeah, this is probably going to be one of those times the expression doesn't work that way. My aunt is a perfect combination of fatalist and optimist. She fell down the stairs, broke her leg, and just laid there going, am I ever glad that's over with? I dated a Buddhist woman for a little while, because, hey, you only live once, huh? I try to tell her that, Well, she got me this book on feng shui. I had no idea where to put it in my house. Just stuck out like a sore thumb no matter where I don't know, we broke up, it doesn't matter. You know what it was? It was her brother. Her brother's one of these yoga experts and annoyingly arrogant. Oh, I just wanted to punch him in the face when his back was turned. Just yoga. Every Wednesday he'd go to yoga, or Thursday sometimes, or Saturday morning. You got to be flexible, I think that's the whole thing with the yoga. They keep moving it around on you. But happily, I'm married, I'm happily married. Forget where the adverb goes, it doesn't matter. My wife knows, that's what, hey, what do I care where the adverb goes? I got bigger things than that to worry about in life, huh? Don't sweat the small stuff, that's what there's a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Don't worry about little things, that's what the publisher wanted to call it, but the author insisted on don't sweat the small stuff, and their lawyers got involved and got ugly for a few months, and the book almost didn't get published, but finally, I bought a copy of it at the airport, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Got on the plane and spilt coffee on it immediately. Life sucks. That's what I think. Yeah. I got the book France for Dummies because I've always wanted to see Buckingham Palace. And A Complete Idiot's Guide to Self-Esteem. I'm just kicking myself for not getting it sooner. My uncle just got married for the fourth time. Fourth marriage? You could tell it was the fourth marriage, too, because they wrote their own vows, and it started with, look. I don't like to make fun of panhandlers. I do what I can for them. I go out just before bed and put a mint on the sidewalk, just so they know what it's like to stay at a nice hotel. I don't want to offend anyone. I feel bad if I offend someone. To me, comedy is a way to make people feel good about themselves, and that's my goal with comedy. And every once in a while, I inadvertently will offend someone and I feel horrible. I was in Vancouver, I was doing a show there. I used the expression to kill two birds with one stone. And this lady at the front let out this, really loud like that. I looked over, she goes, don't start talking about killing birds with a stone. Sorry. I apologize for the insensitive use of that expression. My heartfelt apologies to the bird lovers in the crowd and the stone throwers as well. And I as well. Are both? I don't know, is there a Palestinian ornithologist all huffy now? Wants his money back? Oh, dear. This is horrible. We were doing a fundraiser for cancer, for crying out loud, or against cancer, but you know what I mean. We're kind of in a hurry. I don't have time to be quibbling about prepositions, or quibbling over prepositions, sorry. No, I can't leave. Don't end on a preposition joke, I guess. The rule. But yeah, Vancouver, they can get offended very easily. Animal rights, huge in Vancouver. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting an animal rights activist. I think that's why all the chickens had the flu out there. It's the animal rights people. Oh, we have to have free-range chickens. They should be able to wander around and do what they want, you know, maybe just cross the road even just for a joke. And the meat's better, too, apparently, if it's free-range. That doesn't seem too animal rights conscious to me. Let him wander around till he's tastier. Run free, my little friend. Hey. Till you're succulent. Well, no, I know the meat's better. Same with turkey, right? So if it's free range, the meat's better. Rabbit, even. If the rabbit is all cooped up, the meat's not as good as if the rabbit has a chance to hop around a little bit, you know. So actually, no, if you can get a hold of a rabbit that's been a children's pet, and he's been loved and cuddled, tender, the meat just falls off the bone, folks.
The first time I ever met Irwin was in the Yuck Yucks office at the Blackfoot Hotel in Calgary in the summer of 2002. I had a tour booked where I was opening for Urge. I was 22 years old and had just started working for Yuck Yucks. When I arrived in the office with my suitcase, they informed me that the hotel was sold out and there was no room for me. Irwin was in the office, overheard the discussion. He told me that he had 2 beds in his room and that I could crash with him. We went up to his room and he turned on the TV. Law and Order was on. He was on one bed and I was on the other. After a few minutes, he looked at me and said, "Do you want to watch something else?" And I said, "Sure." He then turned towards me and started unbuttoning his shirt. We'd sit on this gopher patch behind the Blackfoot Inn for hours, and I would smoke, and he would feed the gophers popcorn and tell me stories about them. He explained to me how he and the gophers were very close, and they were covering all his expenses at the Blackfoot Inn. He stopped eating popcorn because it was gopher food, and when I made a joke about fashioning a hat out of gopher, he told me that some jokes aren't funny. Every time Irwin would leave a Starbucks, if he saw a well-dressed woman in a power suit, he'd always try to drop change in their cup. And when they would become upset, Irwin would apologize, claiming he thought they were begging. You know? And when we would walk along Davie Street in Vancouver, I would tell Irwin that we'd get a ticket if we didn't hold hands. And so for 8 years, we held hands on Davie Street. Irwin and I became very close, and what made Irwin so much fun was that he never blocked, and he was fearless in his pursuit of comedy. He was the smartest and funniest guy I've ever met, and I miss him very much.
Yeah, he sure wasn't judgmental, man. You know, that's one thing. He sure didn't judge people. He took everybody, you know, straight ahead, man. Like some of those jokes down the stretch, the jokes he was doing down the stretch, right? Like this is tonight's show is for cancer. Not for cancer, you know. You know, like he was right in its face.
Yeah. He would open with, he would say, "I've got, you know, I've been given a year to live," and he would explain his cancer, And then he'd go, ooh, tough crowd.
Yeah. He made a joke. One of the very early on, the doctors, some specialist, some specialist with the clipboard says to him, "You've got a year." And Irwin says, "Well, my lawyer says he can get it down to 8 months." And the specialist looks up, kind of going, "Why would he?" Yeah. So he's cracking wise right off from Jump Street,
Right. Yeah, they would say laughter is the best medicine, but I'm going to try chemotherapy.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming in, Sam Easton, Tim Steeves. I know we could make it a whole show about anecdotes and stories, and it's also inspiring and encouraging in so many different ways, but I'd like to share the brilliance of who Irwin Barker was with the rest of Canada. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks so much for having us and for celebrating Irwin.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this.
You bet.
I don't understand why people don't like Toronto when you're out. Like, if you're at comedy shows in the prairies or in BC and one of the comics says they're from Toronto, they always get booed. Boo. Okay? You think you're better than us? No, we don't. We know we're better than you. Well, but the point is, it's just that people living outside of Toronto, non-Torontonians, or I guess the proper term would be bumpkins, is that it? They think we're judging them. But no, Torontonians they don't have time to be judging anyone else. They're too busy running the economy, making the country work. If you want to see judging, have you ever been to a small town in like Saskatchewan or Manitoba? They don't just hate Toronto. They don't like anybody. You can insult someone from a small prairie town just by accusing them of being from the next town over. Hey, you look like you're from North Battleford, Fred, with that coat. Boom, boom, boom. Watch it, buddy. I'm from Prince Albert. Go Raiders. I got to go. One more thing is one of the things I love downtown Toronto. There's no shortage of Starbucks. Did you know that? I can step out of my door and walk 1 block in any direction. I don't even have to care which way I'm going. There's a Starbucks. I love the Starbucks, but honestly, I don't know about you, but there are some of those mornings when you're standing in line trying to figure out what's taking them so long. Have you been at a Starbucks where there's more of them behind the counter than us waiting in line? Like, does the government have to get involved before they're any slower? What's going on here? What are they doing behind there? Discussing Nietzsche? Reading each other's tarot cards? I know what they're not doing. They're not getting my coffee. Let's go, I think that what it is, honestly, is that they're too cool to be serving coffee, these people. They're all actors and musicians and poets. And this kid this morning, I'm assuming he's a dancer, comes prancing over and now partly relying on language, partly interpretive dance. I've got to you have to order it just right or they're confused. And yeah, you have to name the country that the coffee beans were grown in. There's a quiz involved. It's always one of these third world countries that uses all of its fertile soil to grow coffee beans for fat cat North American yuppies. What's their logic? We're dirt poor, but we're keeping them real jittery over there. Anyways, the kid comes back. Something's horribly wrong with my order. I could see it in his movements. They're out of tall cups. That's all it was. He wants to know if he can give me a tall cup in a tall coffee in a grande mug. Could I give you a tall coffee in a grande mug? Would that be okay? It's still tall coffee, but in a grande mug. Still, like, what, do they beat you here? What am I supposed to say? No more Mr. Nice Guy. Those days are over. I want a tall coffee in a grande cup. I'll order a tall coffee in a grande cup. I don't have to put up with this. I'm going to the Starbucks next door. That's what I'm going to do. I was in Banff recently and get to the park gate and they give you this brochure. You're in bear country. Tells you how to avoid an encounter with a grizzly bear. And one of the things that I thought was kind of funny on it was there was a phone number, and it tells you if you're out hiking and you're lost, carry a cell phone with you, because you can call for help. Do you see that working? Hello, can I speak to the park ranger, please? You're in serious trouble here, buddy. How long will he be? No, it seems I'm being approached by a bear. Well, where are you? I have no idea. Obviously, I'm in bear country here. Actually, more realistically, if you call, it would be something like, thank you for calling Environment Canada. You're being approached by a bear, press 1. Your life-threatening emergency is important to us. And will be answered by the first available operator. Please do not hang up, as your call will be answered quicker than if you hang up and dial again. This is the last song I'll ever write for you. Last time when I tell you. A little bit of Edward Bear coming straight at you on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Thank you for continuing to hold. All of our operators are currently helping other bear victims. For faster service, please consult our website at www.savagemauling.com. Thanks so much.
That was the inimitable Irwin Barker, a great comedian and a great man who is missed immensely in this country. I want to say thank you to my guests, Tim Steeves and Sam Easton, and audio engineer Dave Field. And thank you always to my producer, Tracy Rideout. We'll see you next week as we present our final episode of the season before our summer break. We call next week's show...